Hello, and welcome to Steve's Mixtapes. My guest mixer this week is a New Jersey-based artist who has been recording experimental music and producing art that has been exhibited internationally for 25 years. According to her Bandcamp page, she builds songs from errant sounds and pubbling textures. And a review of her most recent album, Promiscuous Genes, described it as a mix of DIAMANDA GALAS, Kate Bush and the Munsters in the best way, as melodic and catchy as it is sinister and disturbing. I was put in touch with her by previous guest Brian Turner of East Village Radio, who recommended her, I quote, exquisite, multifaceted musical taste. So welcome to Steve's Mixtapes, Kilynn Lunsford.
Hello, thank you for having me.
It's a pleasure to have you on. That's quite the compliment from Brian.
Yes, I'm blushing, I think. Also, I don't know if I'd heard that review that compared me to Diamanda Galas and the Munsters. That's pretty hilarious.
Well, I was going to ask about what you felt about that as a comparison.
Oh, well, Diamanda Galas is one of my teenage all-time heroes. So yeah, that is quite a compliment. And also, I was a huge fan of the Munsters as a child and like still am. So yeah, I appreciate that. I like it. And Kate Bush also, of course.
Okay,
Yeah, they said
well,
Kate Bush. So I mean that's quite a triumvirate there.
it is. And
Thank you.
so, just interested, Colin, could you just want to give us sort of an overview of your career? Because it sounds like it's quite an interesting one.
Yeah, well, I mean, I started playing music in the late 90s with a friend that I just like met randomly at a Dirty Three show, and I was, a reckless teenager, so I was stuck, and he offered to give me a ride home in his van, and I was like, okay, sure. And anyway, I'm still alive, and we ended up, playing music together, and he taught me a lot in terms of attitude and just like not being self-conscious about technicality and things, and it was really revelatory to me, even though like a lot of the music I was into was very, you know, avant-garde or like unorthodox. Like I said, Diamanda Galas was like one of my favorite, although obviously she's very trained. But anyway, avant-garde music was, I loved it since I was pretty young. So starting to play with him in high school, he's just like, why are you trying to play correctly, quote unquote? So anyway, that's kind of how I started out, and that I think allowed me to go forward into then I had like another band that I started with my friend Heath, who then we started Little Claw, and that's kind of how I got in the orbit of like Thurston Moore and Byron Coley. And I was writing to Byron, and like I think I sent him a record, and anyway, it just like we ended up being on Ecstatic Peace, and then from there I went on and played with Mark from Time One Housing Project when I moved to Philly. I was pretty nomadic. I'm from Virginia, and I grew up outside of DC, so I kind of like went to the Pacific Northwest, ended up in Seattle, then Detroit, then back to Portland. So anyway, back and forth, and kind of ended up then in Thailand, and then Philly, and now New Jersey. But anyway, I've played with a lot of people in a lot of different states, and which led me now to just playing, doing this solo thing. I have a backing band and I have a collaborator, but like it's under my name, so it's, quote unquote solo. But I guess that was a pretty non-linear way to try to explain it, but that's sort of how my life has been. So,
That
um,
sounds, I mean, I often think of myself as quite nomadic because I grew up in the northeast of England. I've lived in various different bits of the UK. That pales into significance. I mean, you said Portland. I mean, Portland to New Jersey, that's a long, long way.
yeah. Yeah, it's a couple days
Yeah.
trip. Yeah, and it's funny because I went from Virginia where I grew up, and then when I turned eight, like graduated from high school, about 2 weeks, a month after I graduated from high school, I moved to the Pacific Northwest to Tacoma, Washington. And then I quickly moved to Seattle because it was, I had already started a band, and it was too hard to like commute on the bus. I didn't have a car. So anyway, I ended up moving to Seattle, and then Detroit, and then back to Portland. So sort of
Okay.
absurd, but Yeah, and then now New Jersey. So they're quite, yeah, it's quite far. My sister's still in the Pacific Northwest. She's still in Portland. She moved out there when I did. Lovely place, but very remote.
I mean, I don't think for those of us who live in the UK, it's quite hard, I think, to grasp the scale of America because you have to remember Texas is 4 times bigger than the UK on its own.
Right, right.
So you know, we don't have anywhere that's 2 days drive. You can drive anywhere in a day. And now I usually ask guests at the beginning about their process of putting the mix together because some people just, you know, are quite decisive, stick 10 songs down. Some people agonize over it. I know that you, for example, said in one of your emails, I picked way too many, was one thing you said. You also said that you had at least 5 choices for each one. So did you find it really difficult to put it together?
Well, initially I started just sort of songs would come into my head and I would be like, "Oh, okay, that might be a good one," and I would put it down. And then I started trying to move them around because it's a bit of a puzzle since, you know, you have the guidelines. I'm like, "Well, that works there and there, but this one only works here." So it's sort of that's a bit of what I was doing. And I think when I sat down and just tried to start narrowing it down instead of just listing songs when they would come to me or listening to things and be, you know, and writing them down. Eventually when I sat down to kind of narrow it down, it got a little bit easier. But then I'm always second guessing myself, like, oh, there's only 10 songs. It's gotta be, you gotta make it count. But
Okay. Well, let's talk about your hit the ground running choice. So this is Neo Zelander. So tell us about this one.
yeah, so this is a band from Spain, and they were led by a woman, Annie Zink. They used tape loops and a lot of drum machines, electronics, keyboards. And this came out in 1986. I guess I thought it was interesting. So you said "Hit the Ground Running" is the first song. And to me, it sounds like it's pounding the
Mm.
ground, it's pounding the pavement, it's pounding the dirt. And it's sort of an agonizing song. So I don't know. I feel like I was like, oh, maybe I should have used something upbeat. Like I said, I'm always second guessing myself. Because to me, this song is sort of, like I said, it's a bit of an agonized gallop going on. And, you know, it's called Pretoria, which when I started thinking about the date, it's like, you know, the capital of South Africa. And at this point, you know, whenever this was recorded is like at the height of apartheid. I just thought it was appropriate for the times we're living in. And this would have been the height of apartheid. And like Nelson Mandela is still in jail and all of these things are going on. Massive violence. And I feel like the track is kind of violent. I mean, it's got this amazing vocal loop, and that's what really drew me in, I think, is like just how sort of primal it sounds. I mean, I'm always drawn towards like really primal sort of beats and industrial and, you know, these sort of loops and I mean, even in the description you read of my music, like pummeling, I really love that stuff. So I think that's part of, you know, why I was drawn to this.
That was Pretoria by Neo Zalanda, the hit the ground running choice of my guest this week, Kilynn Lunsford. That's from a 1986 album called Mix Zalenia. Is that how you say it?
I think so.
Yeah, okay. Right, now, before the something old choice, Kilynn, I always ask people, have they always enjoyed making compilations and mixtapes and all the rest of it?
Since I was, yeah, a teenager, I really liked making mixes for people as a way. I mean, I think it's a classic thing for people who are into music and into sharing music and exploring it is, you want to share it with people that you care about and you want to kind of make friends and get people, impress people and like, show them how you feel about them or that you've invested time making this thing. And it's sort of I think one of those just classic teenage activities, but maybe I'm wrong. But yeah, I actually found a tape I made. So even I guess when I was in my 20s and I had forgotten about this, I found like this old Little Claw tape, which was like my old band from the early 2000s. And the first demo tape that we were selling like in 2003 on the B side, we didn't have enough music. So on the B side, I put the luxurious bags as a way to just share their music with people who are buying our tape.
Often with these mixes, people send me off down rabbit holes when I start looking up some of the artists. I usually start by listening a few times without context, so I don't look anything up. I just listen to the mix on their own without context, and then I start investigating. I have to say, your mix was a particularly good one for rabbit holes. There's lots of very interesting people involved, including this one. So your something old choice is from 1972. It's how do you pronounce them? Is it Ima Sumac?
Ema Sumac, yeah.
Okay, so we've been to Spain. We're now in Peru. Her full name was I'm going to say this correctly, Zuala Emperatriz Chavari Castillo, I think, and Ima Sumac in Quechua, which is a tongue of Peru, means how beautiful. She was also known as the Queen of Exotica. She had a 5-octave vocal range. There were claims that she was an Incan princess directly descended from Atahualpa, the last Incan emperor. And also, for years, rumors circulated that she was really a housewife from Brooklyn whose real name was Amy Camus, because that's Ima Sumac backwards. So fascinating stuff. And a really interesting song, because she'd been known as the Queen of Exotica and done all these sort of indigenous type music and all the rest of it. But then in 72, she released this rock album called Miracles. And it's an extraordinary voice she has, isn't it?
Yeah, no, it's incredible, and all the different colors that she's able to capture in this, it's basically a psych rock record, and obviously it's Les Baxter leading it with a 4-piece rock band. She's hitting all the octaves. She's doing very unorthodox, again, it's like avant-garde, like maybe some of it's like throat singing. There's all kinds of things going on. And I just remember finding this record because I had been a fan of her. I had gotten her, I was always buying like really cheap records. Like when I was a teenager, like I loved the thrift store for everything. I mean, I love vintage clothing from an early age. So I would go there and get that. And then, you know, oh, I can get every Fleetwood Mac record for, $1 or something, Heart, all these things, women fronted classic rock and these sort of major label records. Well, Ima Sumac records were, a dime a dozen, these 10 inches. They're beat up, but they play perfectly well because the vinyl is like, so the record, the acetate, it's like this is like really quality stuff. So it's like, even if it's beat up, it plays great. But finding this record, I was kind of at, again, early 2000s, like maybe 2004 or something, around the time I was starting Little Claw or Little Claw had started. And I was really getting into like figuring out ways to use my voice in, again, unorthodox manners and like to produce like sort of unpleasant sounds, even like, bordering on unpleasantness and all of that, and like exploring the different ways I could experiment with my voice. And anyway, finding this record and seeing the cover is amazing. I don't know if you looked at the cover yet, but it's a beautiful cover, and it's just like the colors, like the way they print those. Sorry, I'm gonna nerd out about like actual like physical records for a minute, but the way that they they print those tip-on covers are just beautiful. Like I wish that everyone could still have those records printed that way, record covers. But it's just a gorgeous record, and then like looking at it, and it's got this guitar floating in the water, and it's like this surrealist scene. And then anyway, it just blew me away. I remember the moment I put it on, I was just like, because I was obsessed with Yoko Ono, and like going from that, finding another thing where it's like, oh, this is like a heavy rock band, but it's fronted by a woman that's just like unleashing all this ferocity was really, and in those time periods, the late 60s, 70s, it's like, oh my God, this is so ahead of its time. And amazing to think that they were doing all of this then.
From the 1972 album Miracles, that was Ema Sumac with Remember. Now, Kilynn, we're on to your something new choice, and I always ask people this: is what do you do in this age where 10 billion songs get released on Spotify every day? How do you cut through it all and keep up with what's good contemporary music?
Well, I'm embarrassed to say I don't keep up with it very well. Like especially when I see I have friends who write for blogs and they write for these various sites, and it's like the 25,000 best punk songs released. I'm exaggerating, but thousands of punk songs released this month or this week, or hundreds of songs, the best songs released this week. I'm like, how do they even listen to this stuff? I don't want to name drop Thurston Moore again, but the funniest thing that I've ever seen, and this is how I imagine people listen to music now that are able to consume all of this. he would listen. I don't know if he always listened to music like this, but I was once sitting there while he was on a laptop, just listening to about 10 seconds of a song and then skipping to the next one. It was just like speed listening. And I'm sure it's stuff he'd in his library that he'd heard a million times. And he's like, oh yeah, this one's great. Okay, next one. But anyway, I just can't imagine how people do it. So I don't do a great job. And the way that I mainly am able to keep up is just like I have this small sort of group of people that I follow that either like, run record labels that I really like, people I'm friends with that will post about something that they like, or I'll see it, something new coming out and read the description, or it's connected to something I already have an interest in or have been looking for or whatever. It's kind of just like random. I used to be obsessive, like when I was in my 20s. Mostly, I always kept up through like mail order. It used to be when I was a kid, a teenager, or whatever, it was Bomp Records because they would send out those mailing lists. And then I got into like some other more like collectible ones. And now over the years, it's like people like Fusetron or Silk Breeze or people I follow on Bandcamp. They send out that they're releasing new things.
Okay. And I have to say, Kilynn, don't apologize for name dropping Thurston Moore, because as he's been on the show, I do it all the time.
Oh, okay, right. Great.
Okay, now, your choice is Tina Fulker, who I didn't know. The song is called Outdoor Girl. It's from a cassette release that came out in 1986. So how did you shoehorn this into your something new choice?
So I do feel guilty about this a bit, so I'm glad you brought that up. Well, it came out on cassette, very like I don't even know how limited the cassette was, but it seems to be pretty limited.
Well, as
I
far
would
as I can gather, the Canadian label that put it out, that was the only release they ever did.
Yes. Yeah. So now it's on vinyl and it just came out this month,
Okay.
like a couple weeks ago. And I was very excited for it and like, is it out? I need it, kind of thing. And so that's how I shoehorned it in, but I do feel guilty because I wanted it to be I wanted it to be a new release, but this is where the puzzle aspect comes in because I moved my very new release, my actual new release, not like an archival quote unquote release, to a different slot.
Yeah. Okay.
But yeah, I did wanna shout out a woman that lives in New Jersey, Lo-Fi MILF. I wanted to include her song too. She's always releasing stuff. But then I realized one of the songs I wanted to include wasn't from the last 12 months. So that was another thing. It was lots of things kept being just off by a little bit.
Well, I can put a link to that on the webpage for this mix, which is the particular song. I say Lo-Fi MILF is a great name.
It's amazing. I mean, this woman blows me away. She's brilliant. I wish more people knew who she was, but I hope someone will put her stuff out on proper, vinyl or something soon. But yeah, there's a song called it's called Come On. It's just CMON.
Okay, I'll put a link to that if I can find it on the webpage. I look forward to listening to a bit of Lo-Fi MILF. So Tina Fulker was an Anglo-Irish poet. This was recorded in '84. So it's her poetry recorded in Washington with an American backing band.
Yes.
Apart from that, I don't know a great deal about it. Do you know much more about her?
What I know about her is the person who basically brought her over to the DC area was a guy who published a poetry magazine, I believe, called Gargoyle. And they had her over to do a couple readings. And he had put out a book by her, a poetry collection by her. And then he also set up this recording session in Adams Morgan. So she seemed to pass away. I don't know if she passed away in the 90s. I'm forgetting.
92 she died.
Okay, I thought it was pretty early. Yeah, 92. That's what was in my mind. Yeah, so it's quite sad because she was obviously like a talented person, and I think that her lyrics are so haunting. Some of it reminds me of Sylvia Plath. There's this sort of like playfulness and this girlishness in some areas, but then there's this just like extreme pain and yeah, just like bleakness. And this one is one of those songs where it's like you hear the title and you think outdoor girl. Oh, well, what, like a girl that likes to hike or like the nature or this, but then you listen to the song and it's like, oh no, it's probably about someone that's like doesn't have a place to live, like is out on the street, is like living night to night, is, forgotten about, is, you know, so anyway, and I think all of the lyrics and all of the songs like really blow me away. It was hard to pick one.
Outdoor girl, used up by the morning, smudged away by the night, cleansed aside. Outdoor girl, on the run, varnished bright, glossed over, used up by the morning, smudged away by the night. Outdoor girl, used up by the morning, smudged away by the night, on the run, varnished bright, glossed over, used up by the morning, smudged away by the night. Outdoor girl, outdoor girl, used up by the morning, smudged away by the night. Outdoor girl, outdoor girl, varnished bright, glossed over, used up by the morning, smudged away by the night. Used up by the morning, smudged away by the night. Up by the morning, smudged away by the night.
From the 1986 cassette album, recently out on vinyl, Tender Hooks, that was Tina Fulker with Outdoor Girl. Right, now there were lots of artists I didn't know on your playlist, Kilynn, which I always enjoy because, I never have to seek out new music myself because I do about one of these interviews every week and there's always something interesting I find out. But there was one name I recognised in your Something Borrowed choice. So Heine Goebbels and Alfred Harth I didn't know. Neither did I know Ernst Stotzner, but I do know Dagmar Krauss. So that was a name that leapt out. So I know her from Slap Happy and Henry Cow and Art Bears, etc. So this is from an album called Bertolt Brecht Zeit wird knapp, which I believe means time is running out. And the song is called Liebeslied. I think a Liebeslied. My German isn't great, which translates as love song. So so tell me about this choice.
Yeah, so I couldn't do well, I'll talk for a second. I'm gonna try not to yammer on too much and go on all these different roundabout asides. But anyway, I did struggle when you asked me before about, making the playlist. I did struggle between picking old faves and then like trying to challenge myself to just like pick some things that, I haven't listened to too many times or are newer by artists that I love or this or that. Like try to, push it a little further and not just pick like things that, I've loved forever and end up with like, Robert Wyatt and and like,
I know what you mean because I deliberately chose the categories because I mean I've been on things where they just ask you to pick 10 songs and it's so open-ended it's really, really challenging. You just end up, as you say, choosing our favorites. So I wanted people to choose things that they, I guess, put a bit of thought into. And I can tell you, obviously, you've put a lot of thought into this.
I wanted to, again, I wanted to challenge myself. So anyway, this this is kind of splitting the difference, because Dagmar Krause is one of my favorite singers of all time. I have a lot of favorite vocalists, lyricists, and she is one of them. She's a genius, and I'm a huge Brecht fan. This is a record I got like in the last year and a half. I don't know. I'm bad with time. COVID ruined my sense of timelines, but like everyone, I guess. But anyway, I picked this one. This was a cover, right? This is a cover. Yeah. So yes. So that's why I picked this one. She does a lot of covers of Brecht, as I said. I just love, again, this is another one where it's kind of pummeling. It's got this like, this repetitiveness to it. What's confusing is he has several songs and poems with the same title. And like, there's a one from Threepenny Opera that's called this, but that's not this. This is a poem. I think that just the whole nature of the record is really interesting. And it comes with this beautiful booklet with the lyrics and everything. You said you weren't familiar with the two composers. One is a vocalist, Ernst Stolzer. He's another vocalist, but the other two guys they were German composers, free jazz composers mainly. But anyway, I think this is a really interesting record. And also I tried to pick things that aren't very expensive, because if people, either they're available online, hopefully, or they're not like these crazy pricey records that are impossible to buy, which is another important thing to me, because I'm always like forever on a budget and want to be able to like, get as much as I can without breaking the bank. So, and I hope, I know lots of other people are on a budget. So anyway, this is a great record.
Lustige Leute.
Unter jener Abendstund
Weißt schon, wie ich
hab
meine.
ich einen schöneren Mund
Und geschicktere Beine.
Grüner ist das Gefühl,
Baum und Strauch und
und das
Wiese.
Wasser schöner kühl.
Wenn ich's auf mich gieße. Als ich nachher von dir ging.
Als ich dann singen anfing,
Baum und Strauch und
in
Wiese.
der Abendstund. Oh, grüner
Weißt
ist
du, wie
das
ich meine?
Gefühl,
Und geschicktere Beine.
und Strauch und Wiese.
Geschicktere Beine.
Right, now we're on to your Something Blue choice, Kilynn. Now, you put in a last-minute substitute on this one, and I was slightly disappointed in a way, but I thought I couldn't not put it in, because you said I've been obsessed with this song for 20 years, so I could not put it in. But I really didn't want to lose your original choice, so I'm going to break the rules myself here, and we're going to have both of them. So you're going to have 11 songs.
Oh, yay! I was hoping that you would put it in there at least for people to hear.
So we'll talk about the first one, and then I'm actually going to segue the two, because actually they make quite a nice segue, actually, I think. So we'll talk about the first one, and then it'll segue in the second one, and we'll talk about it afterwards. So when you put in Sean Harris, I thought, well, I don't know that name. But when I looked him up, he was in the West Coast pop art experimental band. And there's a song of theirs, A Child of a Few Hours is Burning to Death, that I put on many a compilation over the year. I love that song because it's so otherworldly. Do you know what I mean? It's like
yes.
It's delivered in this sort of jaunty way, but it's talking about a child burning to death. It's the juxtaposition of it all is marvelous. But something else I didn't know about him. So he released this solo album called Sean Harris in 1973. It came out on the same day and on the same label as Dark Side of the Moon, and the label, it was Columbia, I think, obviously spent a fortune promoting Dark Side of the Moon, which has gone on to be one of the hugest things ever. And so it basically sold virtually no copies at all. But it's a lovely song. I can kind of see why you like it so much. But it's a very sad song. I went through the lyrics and I kept flicking back and thinking, is that what he just sang? So, for example, not much more I have to give. I often pray I'll cease to live. I don't care much how I go.
Yes. I don't care I don't care how I go, just very dead and not too slow. Like
Yeah.
that's the end of that line. Just very
Yeah.
dead and not too slow. I remember the first time I put this record on, actually an ex had bought it for me. It came out on CD from Revola, like in 2005 or something around there, I think. And it was a Christmas present. That actually, along with, and this is another thing I would have put on here if I could have had 25 songs or however, but it's one of the Link Ray 3-track Shack records. It was another CD. I got those 2 CDs for Christmas and they blew my mind and changed my consciousness, I would like to think. But yeah, this whole record is incredible. I get very upset. I take it very personally when I see people, because one of the complaints about it at the time, and people have continued to be very lazy, in my opinion, and call this record pretentious and all of these things, overblown, pretentious. I'm like, this is an amazing. Sean Harris has a crazy story. I mean, it makes sense that these lyrics are like so depressive and just like suicidal, and just the candor which he's talking about it is insane. And yes, there's a little bit of, I think, woe is me. And his father was this symphonic conductor, composer, and he, even in the liner notes, I believe, and maybe it's only in the Revola, because at some point I found the record used to be really cheap. I was actually looking and it's not that cheap anymore, but in the liner notes, they talk about how his father, like, basically said to him, like, whatever about this record. I mean, I can't remember the quote, but that he was just sort of like, yeah, Sean, this is just like stupid pop music. And so it was obvious, like, he had this like tortured soul, about like just never being good enough. He was like this overachiever, but like fail son in the eyes of his father. And so I think, like, I don't know, I just really relate to this I won't go into my personal history, but like I really relate to this on a deep level. I relate to the lyrics. I struggle with depression, and it's, all of those things, and I have since I was a little child. And just, I think that when I heard this, it just really spoke to me. I hadn't heard somebody talk about these things in a way that was like, I mean, the music is sunny and beautiful, and I think in a lot of places, but the lyrics are just so, and just the shame. I think the shame really spoke to me in the lyrics, because there's a lot of, in this one, he's apologizing. And saying, and feeling this shame about how maybe he conducted his life or things that he did. So anyway, he's still alive, though, I will say.
Yeah. Okay. Well, I'm really glad you put this in at the end, because I love this song. I haven't listened to the album yet, but I will do.
Oh, I can't wait for you to listen to it. And when you listen to it, let me know if you have a moment. Just let me know what you think.
Yeah, I mean, because it's if you look at it online, it's generally described as sunshine pop, and it is. The harmonies are beautiful, and I'm a great lover of contrast in things.
Me too. I mean, it's
between the beautiful layers of this, the harmonies, everything. It's so lovely with this. In fact, the first time you listen to it, I'm sure I listened to it the first time through, I thought, yeah, that's pleasant enough. And then the second time through, I thought, hang on, what was that you just said? So yeah, no, I really don't. I'm really glad you brought this to me. Really liked it a great deal. So we're going to hear it now, and then we're going to segue into your bonus Something Blue choice. So the first one we'll have, this is Sean Harris with I'll Cry Out.
Got the freedom of this song to tell how sad I've been so long. Gilded words can't help replace the love I've taken and disgraced. Left alone I feel the pain, not a thing will help contain all the feelings left this way. This song is here to help me say, God, I'm sorry for what I've done. Suzanne, I'm sorry for what just prolong my sound and my life and my voice and my wrongs. Not much more have I to give. I often pray I'll cease to live. I don't care much how I go, just very dead and not too slow. I know I'll cry out from my grave. I'm so alone and got to say, God, I'm sorry for what I've done to her. Suzanne, I'm sorry for what I've done to you. Suicidal neat guy, now you've gone away, never to return and perform another day. I feel like a lonely soldier crying in the night. God, I'm never right. All my life was just poor taste, 24 golden years of waste. Nature's time will help erase my scent and my eyes and my hair, my face. I'll be easy to replace, abrasive, crass and lacking grace. Then I'll cry out from my grave, I'm so alone and got to say, God, I'm sorry for what I've done to her. Suzanne, I'm sorry for what I've done to you.
That was Coke with Your Cigarette, Kilynn Lunsford's bonus Something Blue choice, because I've let her have two this week. That is from an album called, and I'll take a deep breath for this, Black Lips Bar, Androgynins and Deviants, Industrial Romance for Bruised and Battered Angels, 1992 to 1995, which was released in 2022. That's quite a mouthful. I found a little bit about Black Lips, the Black Lips Performance Cult. We're a collective of underground performers, artists and drag queens who played at the New York Pyramid Club every Monday night at 1 a.m. I found that from the Bandcamp page of this album. But apart from the fact that they're a duo, I found out very little about Coke themselves. But I didn't want to lose this song because I really, really liked it. It reminded me a little bit of, do you remember the band Drugstore?
That sounds familiar, but I'm not, no,
Okay.
I don't know their music.
Okay, I'll send you a link to it. A bit like, they were a bit more polished than this. But yeah, I mean, this is just guitar and vocal, and I really, really like this. So do you know much about Coke?
Not anything aside from what is in the liner notes of this beautiful, I have to say, like amazing double record that Anoni put together for Anthology, I believe. And there's also a book. And I mean, these were just talk about a deal. Like I would talk about like, you know, just as far as the price and what you get, this record and the book, I would recommend to anyone who's interested in this time period in New York and queer and trans and, you know, underground avant-garde artwork and music, because this was an incredible scene. And when I saw this, however many, it came out like a couple years ago now, I just was like, I have to have this. So it has a lot of old faves on it, you know, like Divine and Edith Massey, you know, Punks Get Off the Lawn. But then this Coke song, this isn't the only one. I could have picked other ones, but this Coke one is kind of my thing. Like it really spoke to me, like how you're saying this like guitar and this vocal and her vocal, and it's like the longing in it. And I just, you know, again, it's the contrast, because then at one point she's like, you're cigarette, you're cancer. I mean, people use this term a lot, Lynchian, but I really feel like this could have worked, you know, this sound, this would have gone very well in The Return. Yeah, I mean, the woman, the singer's name is Lost Forever, and then the guitar player's name is Twinkle. And they were part of this Black Lips collective, and this is you know, the name of the song was also a play that Lost Forever, the singer, it was a theme song to the play called Your Cigarette.
Now we're going to get your Take It Down choice, and this is where you could have had this in the Something New, because this is a recent release. So this is Princess Demony. Am I saying that correctly?
Yes, I believe so.
She's from Montreal, a poet, singer, filmmaker, painter, and cat lover, according to her Bandcamp page. Her Bandcamp page also says her music ranges from dreamy, melancholic soundscapes to dark, cutting, satirical social commentary, even. Tell you what this reminded me a little bit of? Burial.
Oh, mm-hmm.
Yeah, there's a slightly similar vibe, that sort of big, spacey echo. Do you know what I mean?
Yeah.
And that big sort of outside space feel. With Burial, it's all about, you feel like you're in sort of like a bus stop in some gnarly bit of London somewhere. That's kind of what Burial does for me. So it's not similar sounding to that, but it has a similar vibe. So yes. So tell me about Princess Demony.
Yeah, so she's as you said, she's a Canadian artist, and she's an incredible filmmaker. I mean, just a brilliant filmmaker. She made these very ambitious short films. These are incredible. They really are just next level work. Like, so interesting. Again, with the contrast, you said you love contrast. So do I. I love the dialectic, as they say. And it's also seamless, because I guess she transferred it from 16. I can go nerd out about this forever, so I won't bore you guys, or you in particular, Steve. Yeah, I mean, she transferred it all from she shot it on these, you know, different types of media, and then transferred it all to like 16 millimeter. Anyway, she's an amazing multifaceted artist, and I first came across her work. Seance Center, I believe, is the label. They put out a 7-inch of her song called New York Grief 86. So I played that song on WFMU, and then I found that she was like making a new record, because I signed up for Bandcamp alerts. Those are great, guys. and found out, she's still making music. So I wrote to her. Anyway, long story short, we developed a correspondence, and now we're going to be making some things together in the summer. I just love her music. I just love everything she does. I think like she has a great eye, a great ear, a great everything. She's just like one of those people who moves through the world in a very beautiful way.
That was Princess Demony with Hold Real Still While Everything Spins, the Take It Down choice of my guest this week, Kilynn Lunsford. Now, Kilynn, we're on to Around the World, and the normal question I ask is completely redundant with you this week, because I normally ask people, do you listen to a lot of music that isn't US, UK, etc.? In this place already, we've been to Spain, Peru, Canada, Ireland, and Germany. We're going to Mexico in a future thing as well. So that's it's been a pretty multinational playlist. Was that a deliberate choice, or is that just naturally part of the way you listen to music?
It's just naturally part of the way I listen to music. Sadly, I think if I would have chosen a bunch of or not sadly, but to be honest, if I think about it, if I would have chosen a lot of faves, now we might have just been in the UK a lot, because I'm thinking I would have picked, so that would have again, maybe split the difference, because I would have picked a song off one of my favorite records of all time, Babel, which is Kevin Coyne and Dagmar Krause. And I would have picked things like Robert Wyatt, probably a few other, Anita Lane I would have picked. Anyway, so I probably would have picked a lot of UK things if I picked favorites. So it wasn't intentional.
So this is Susan, full name Susan Nozaki. And I wasn't familiar with her, but she was famous. She became famous in Japan as a teenager, sort of a TV radio personality, and she was in musicals and stuff before she recorded these couple of albums in the early 80s. And yeah, so she recorded 2 LPs in 80 and 81, and it was sort of an all-star cast. It was like all the big people in Japanese techno pop at the time. An interesting thing I found about her is that she was due to come to the UK and have a big promotional tour. Because if you listen to it, you can see, I was 12 in 1981, and I remember what was in the charts vividly, because, we'd listened avidly to Top of the Pops and the Top 40 and all the rest of it. Listening to this, I can imagine this selling big in the UK. But it was cancelled because of the Falklands War. And she I don't think she ever came to the UK after that. So an interesting story. So the song you've chosen is called I Only Come Out at Night.
I found this record randomly and I just picked it up based on the cover. It was like $4 or $5. So I'm looking at it and I'm like, what? I don't think I could tell it was Japanese at first, but then I started looking at the credits and it's like, oh, members of YMO are playing on this. And so anyway, I threw it on and it's like, oh, of course I have to buy this. It's just this kind of playful synth pop. But again, with this one, I think this reminded me too of, the Raincoat song, Only Loved at Night. And then also like the outdoor girl. She talks a lot about the girl at night. But I love the title. It's mysterious. This song is a little stranger than some of the other ones. It has a little more propulsion and a little less like of the melodic, just sort of floaty synth stuff going on, I feel like. But yeah, I think this is just a really fun, like surprising record that I had no idea about, and I found it randomly. Part of the thing is it made me excited to buy records again or to look through records again, because I feel like so often we're made to feel like everything is unattainable or everything that's good is expensive or this or that or the other thing. So it's fun to know that you can still find things for cheap.
From the 1981 album The Girl Can't Help It. That was Susan with I Only Come Out at Night. Right, okay, so we're on to the left of centre choice. Now, this is a category that's caused quite a lot of discussion in lots of different shows. Discussing, what actually constitutes left of centre. And it's particularly interesting for you as an experimental avant-garde artist, whatever you might describe yourself as. What constitutes left of centre for you?
I think it's basically, well, I don't want to say basically because yeah, it's pretty expansive, but I would say that some hallmarks are, it doesn't necessarily follow standard melodic schemes. It doesn't follow sort of standard changes or um, tonality, tunefulness. There's a lot of different ways that you can make something left of center. And I think later on actually the next one, I think my wild card kind of speaks to this, and especially the way she was written about. But anyway, I won't jump ahead. But there's certain elements that can just be shifted a bit, and it can go from maybe a totally, again, like mainstream kind of song to unorthodox and left of center just based on the vocal or just based on certain things that get added. So anyway, I just think it depends. It can have these hallmarks, but I think the fact that it plays with your expectations and plays with goes against what would be like mainstream acceptability on beauty or tunefulness or these kinds of things that are classic sort of like Enlightenment ideals about art, I guess you'd say, if that's not too ridiculous to, flighty to say. But, I think like playing with those, like the ideals, the kind of like classical Western ideals of beauty, like is sort of makes things left of center to some degree.
I mean, we've had some really interesting choices in this category, as you could probably imagine. I think two of the most interesting ones are Ethan Miller of Howling Rain chose something played by elephants. And Deb Googe of My Bloody Valentine chose a band who play everything on vegetables. Every instrument of the
amazing.
So we have some really interesting stuff. And this one that you've chosen is from a compilation album called Women with Voices, which I've had a listen through once on Bandcamp. I really liked it. It's really eclectic mix. There's jazz, there's folky stuff, there's some quite experimental stuff on there as well. And I've only listened to it once. It didn't quite. It's one of those albums I think you need a few listens to take it in properly. The track from it you've gone for is Alchemia. So you say it was born in Mexico and she's now based in London. But apart from that, I couldn't really find very much out about her. Do you know much about her?
Well, so she was a nomad. So she was born in Mexico. She moved a lot. She lived in France. She lived in but yeah, now she's UK based. So I was hoping that was okay but it seemed like she lived all over the world. Thing that I know about her is she's done a lot of collaborations, including with Rodelius. From Kluster and Harmonia. So she collaborated with him, who I'm also a big fan of. Yeah, she moved around a lot, and she has mostly released, it seems like, collaborative works or things on CD and tape, but they're very hard to find. And the kind of main albums that seem like her main full-length releases are I think were released in Mexico, so they're quite hard even for the CDs or they're higher priced even as a CD, not easy to find. But I came across this compilation because I was looking for, so we already went through Dagmar Krause, but I mean I'm a huge fan of all of the sort of Lindsay Cooper and all the collaborators of, that were people, the revolving members of Henry Cowell and Art Bears and, Recommended Records. I've been a huge fan of. Like, I found those compilations that are just, again, like, were beautiful to find, like, when I was in my early 20s, and they just blew me away with, like, the art and the booklet and all these things. And so anyway, that's how I found this CD, because a couple of those people are on this. And it's just it's a great CD, like you said. There's a lot going on there, and there's a lot of different styles. The guy who put it together, he talks about how women's voices are just like, women are more interesting singers than men. He's just like, period. That's what it is. He's like, they can do more with their voice. I don't know. I just thought it was an interesting perspective because it's very rare I hear someone say that, and especially, a man of, at that point he was an older man, and he loved improvising with women, I guess, women singers, and he just thought, so he put together this compilation.
Alchemia and Isadora and Carrier. Now, Kilynn, when I get these mixes from people, I have various ways of getting the songs to put the shows together. Basically, if it's a contemporary artist, I will go on Bandcamp and buy it, because obviously that's the right thing to do. If somebody's picked, I don't know, a James Brown song or something, then I won't necessarily go and pay for it, if you know what I mean. I mean, the James Brown estate doesn't really need my contribution. And sometimes things are a bit obscure, and the only way to get them is to rip them off YouTube or something like that. But I'm very rarely defeated. I can only think, we're on show 60-something. I only think of 2 instances where I haven't been able to get it. So you're the third person to defeat me, because I could not find your wildcard choice, and you had to send it to me in the end. I found a live version on YouTube, but it was a bit ropey quality. So this is Angel Corpus Christi. And not only this song, I've listened to a few others, because there's lots of really fun cover versions. So she's from San Francisco. She's an accordionist. She's done tribute LPs to Elvis, Tom Petty, and Lou Reed. I particularly like her cover of Suicide's Dream Baby Dream. I thought that was great. I thought her cover of Louie Louie was great. And her cover of Alice Cooper's 18 was fabulous. So I'll put links to all of those next. I really they're just fun. When I listen to the mixes through the first time, I just write, 2, 3, 4, 5 words next to them, and I wrote fun next to it. And there's something quite infectious about her music.
Yeah, I agree. It's one of the, she's playing the accordion, which is rare in pop, punk, mainstream music, popular kind of music that generally would have, guitars and drum machine and things like that. Maybe like a weird polka band or a weird, some sort of weird folk band or something. But I guess I'm thinking of my childhood, seeing these bands in like this place where my aunt lives, called the Guild Hall. There would be these like odd sort of like local bands that were something verging on the Shags meets, like a kind of like a wedding band or something. And the level of skill is, I mean, I love the Shags, but this is the chops are higher here. But yeah, it's just a very fun record, and I love the play. Again, these lyrics, they're kind of self-deprecating. They've kind of got this, acknowledging just one's own shortcomings. I love the poking fun at herself with the record label, and that she was on this record label and then basically got dropped, and that they even ordered her records, pre-ordered her records. I can relate to this song. I think it makes me it makes me cheerful. It makes me kind of like stop taking myself too seriously. I feel like when I think about it, when I listen to it, because even it's just a good reminder because even my favorite people have gone through a lot of what maybe could be heartbreak or having their dreams kind of like squashed, but they can poke fun at themselves. They can be like honest about it and have fun with it and make great art out of it. And I think that that's like the best thing you can do is just like when something terrible happens or something that would otherwise be defeating, like try to turn it around. I really like this song because I admire the way that she does that. Lovely song.
And it's called Rough Tough Cream Puff, which is not a phrase
Yes.
I was familiar with, but I looked it up. I don't know whether this is an American thing or not, but I looked it up. It said it refers to a male with a ferocious posture, threatening gaze, and aggressive stance, but one who will actually cave in and whimper when face down.
Well, I'm the rough, tough cream puff from the Motor City. I knew the MC5 and I knew Iggy. We used to turn on in the back of my van, pull the curtains closed and kick out the jams. Well, just like Jerry Lewis, I'm big in France. Hey, I sold some records there, they even ordered in advance, but then my label went bankrupt and left me high and dry. But did you see me shed a tear or did you see me cry? You can't keep a rough, tough cream puff down, not when she's wearing a designer gown. You can't keep a rough, tough cream puff down. You can't keep her down. So if you see me on the street or playing in a bar, you don't have to wonder who I are. Just buy me a drink and please don't boo, 'cause you remember me, I'm Angel Corpus who? You can't keep a rough, tough cream puff down, not when she's wearing a designer gown. You can't keep a rough, tough cream puff down. You can't keep her down. You can't keep a rough, tough cream puff down, no, not when she's wearing a designer gown. You can't keep a rough, tough cream puff down. You can't keep her down. Oh, you can't keep her, you can't keep her, you can't keep her down.
Angel Corpus Christi with Rough Tough Cream Puff. That was originally a B-side to a 7-inch single in 1992. It is on an album. There's a compilation album, I think, called The Real Angel Corpus Christi, which was released in 2018. But very hard to track down digitally. But my guest this week, Kilynn Lunsford, supplied me with it. So thank you for that. Now, before we get to your finale, Kilynn, I often ask people what their plans are going forward for the rest of 2026. You mentioned you played in the UK a couple of years ago. Any plans to come back to the UK?
I'd love to. Not right now. We want to definitely do that. This year, I've been working mostly on new music, and then I have a festival and like a little tour coming up in the Midwest next week. And then I'm gonna be playing some other shows throughout the sort of like area, the New York, Philly, playing in Delaware too. But yeah, I had my album Promiscuous Genes that came out last May. So I've been working on a lot of new stuff ever since I kind of got that finished. So that's where I'm at right now. But if anyone wants to, help me book a tour in the UK or Europe, I would love to come over there.
And I would also say I bought Promiscuous Genes on Bandcamp and would urge other people to do so, because you should buy things on Bandcamp because the money goes more directly to the artist. Okay, your finale choice. Now, as I said before, I listened to the playlist without much context, just to get the feel of it. And I said to you before, I make brief notes next to each song. I wrote down Malevolent next to this one. But actually, when I then looked it up, I hadn't heard of a Bad Diana, but then I realised it's Diane Rogerson's, who is part of the Nurse with Wounds universe, if you like. So that kind of made sense once I'd heard it. So yeah, the song is called Mirage Man. It's from a 2024 album called The Lights Are On But No One's Home. It is kind of menacing, isn't it?
Yes, it is menacing. And I think I started menacing and I'm ending menacing.
Yes, you are. You come full circle.
Yeah, is what I realized. It wasn't purposeful, but then when I got it set in place, I was like, oh, that works. That works. Because this was another one where she does a cover, or it's a loose cover or inspired by Asherah Temple. They do a song. Because actually Steve Stapleton, so this is Nurse with Wound alum backing her up on this album. And they also backed her up. So she was married to Stephen Stapleton. Her records from the 80s are on United Dairies. This one is not. And those records, in my opinion, are classics. Again, maybe I did pick some old favorites here, like I was saying earlier. I picked some old favorites, but some newer releases by those people, because this is from 2007. It's called Bad Diana, so it's not really under her name. But her older records, the first one is released under Crystal Bell Schroed. So that's kind of what she went by at certain points. She's had different monikers.
So have I got the date wrong on this? Because have I picked that date up from a re-release or something? Because I thought it was 2024.
Oh, sorry. This was recorded in 2007 and then it came out in 2024.
Came out in 2024, right. Okay.
It came out originally on CD in 2007 or so. And yeah, it is menacing. It's another one of those just like pummeling. It's got this loop, and her voice is incredible. And so, yeah, just like this miasma of like, just this hulking thing, like covering the track. And I love this record.
It's only she that dances.
Mirage Man by Abad Diana, the finale choice of my guest this week, Kilynn Lunsford. So, Kilynn, we've got to the end of your list. I hope you enjoyed putting it together, and I hope you enjoyed coming on.
Yes, I did. Thank you so much, Steve. It was a fun time.